Hey Miraculous fans, Crystal here, and today I finally watched Illustrhater. I'm finally starting season 6, and before you say it, yes, I could have started with Climactic Queen because it is officially episode 1, but I decided even though that episode is out, I'm going to watch these in the same order that they were released and get that same experience that other fans got by watching these in the order that they had to watch them. So, yes, I'm starting with Illustrator, and I watched it right just now. I literally just finished watching it. And oh boy, is there a lot to say about this. Well, of course, there's a lot to say because a lot has changed in season 6. It definitely feels like a new beginning, and not just because of the animation style, although that definitely adds to it. I'm not okay. I'm not going to ramble about the whole all the character design changes because I feel like if I am gonna give my thoughts on that, I'll save that for its own separate video going over all the character changes, their outfits, all those things. Like, yes, I do have thoughts on those, but that should be its own separate video, not part of the review for Illustrator. So, this does feel like it could work as the first episode, even though it's labeled as episode 2, especially because we have that sort of recap at the start. We started with Alya, and actually, that was not the first scene. I did notice, the first scene we briefly saw Lila, but then we got that recap scene, which I noticed actually came before the theme song. Like, when I first started watching it, I thought maybe the theme song had just been removed from the version I'm watching, but no, the theme song did play after that scene with Alya, which is interesting, and I wonder if that's going to be the new format for season 6. I also noticed, jumping to the end, we did have a brief scene after the end card thing, which makes me think this will be the formula for season 6, because earlier on, not every episode had a post-end card scene. Those were more special. I'm feeling like season 6 will not only have a short scene after the end card every time, but also a scene before the theme song is a really interesting choice. I don't know if it's just for this one or if they're always going to do it in season 6. And it's interesting, the whole cold open thing. A lot of shows do it. Cartoons, not as much. It's more like, I don't know, things like Doctor Who and stuff, they do things like that where there's a scene setting things up before the theme song plays. But it's definitely an interesting choice, I'll give them that. That scene with Alya worked just fine. It was a nice little recap. Although, teeny tiny nitpick, I know it's just a brief line, but I did notice and write down while Marinette was rambling, she mentioned things we knew about Monarch, one of which she said he akumatized a total of 212 people, which is a lot more people than episodes, so I guess a lot happened off screen. But she also said 99.8% of which are in Paris, which I know I'm really nitpicking here with this line, but that percentage doesn't work because it's not a whole number. 99.8% of 212 people is 211.576 of a person. And you can't have that. So I think Soa was just being silly with that line. And you know what? It's I guess it's okay if it's not entirely accurate because maybe it's in character. Like Marinette herself flubbed the math a bit. That's what I'm gonna say. But getting to the point of this episode, it does have a lot of setup because we do have moments of trying to figure out who this new villain is. And they're very secretive. Like, of course, we, the villain, know that it's Lila, or whatever you want to call her, Cerise. I've seen people say Bianca. I've seen people say Iris. People say it depends which appearance she's going by. And sorry, guys, for the sake of these reviews, I will continue to say Lila most of the time, just because it's the name that I'm used to saying. But no, that makes it sound like I'm okay with dead naming people. She's not a real person, she's a character, but also I don't dead name characters. Like, if there was a trans character in a show, of course I use their current name, even if I'm watching episodes before they came out. But this is different because Lila is one of the names that this character has used, and that's not the point. I will say Lila a lot of the time. Or how about I'm just going to say Chrysalis? Actually, I can't say that yet because at this point they have not used the name Chrysalis. Anyway, what was I saying? I was saying, yes, we the viewers know that it is that person that we know as Lila. But the characters, they have no idea who's got the butterfly Miraculous. We know because we saw it all, not just in the London special, but even if you skipped the London special, I think, the season 5 finale showed her getting it. But yeah, and I do like the mystery of this villain, which we see where the akumatization process looks a bit different. There's multiple voices, which is interesting. So people aren't sure whether it's a man or a woman or multiple people somehow. Whereas I think it wasn't entirely clear at first, but I think people could tell when it was Hawkmoth akumatizing them. I guess they could hear the voice in their head, so I guess they could sort of tell it was an adult man, which, isn't much to go off, but still it was a hint, which now the characters do not even have that hint. But the focus of this episode is not the Akuma character herself. She's kind of there to create conflict and give them something to fight. But she is not the focus of the episode. Her name's Maya, by the way, and also when the episode first came out, I remember a lot of people sharing her picture and saying, she looks like a mini Marinette. Is there some sort of time travel going on here? No, okay. Yes, she looks a bit like her, mostly the hairstyle. Maybe she naturally had that hair color, and then because she's a fan of Ladybug, she likes it tied like that. I don't know, but anyway, she's just a random little girl, no connection to the characters. She's not the focus of the episode, she's just there to create conflict. I find the main focus of the episode is that Marinette is, one, she's struggling with how to be a couple with Adrian. And along with that, she is avoiding dealing with that by always being really protective over her team and trying to micromanage everything as Ladybug. And that's pretty relatable when you have one thing in your life that's hard to deal with, so you try to micromanage other things to exert some sort of control. And that's interesting to see. And even just the moments of her struggling to be a couple with him, it was actually really relatable, because I know I've had times in my relationships where I've had that, where I'm like, am I being a good girlfriend, or like how are we even supposed to be a couple, And I've had those moments, and which is why I'm really glad we had that scene at the end where they talked about it, because it is so important for couples to just stop and talk about these things. Because all that stress, maybe not all of it, but most of the stress just melts away when you realize that your partner is going through the same thing. And they also have those moments of, feeling like they might not be doing enough to be part of a good couple. And then when you realize you're both feeling that way, it makes you both feel better about everything. It's just one of those moments where it's like, yeah, we both don't know what we're doing, so it's fine, and we'll figure it out together. So the episode as a whole was not... It was actually better than I imagined, because, I've seen some spoilers, and I saw, bits from the episode leaked when it first aired, and my original first impression of the episode was that it'd get too silly, or just the clumsiness moments would just get too annoying and it wouldn't be interesting. And this episode was interesting. In fact, there were some moments I was surprised. There were actually some moments that genuinely made me laugh. One of which, in that scene at the beginning, I actually laughed out loud, was when Alya was like, "Can I be frank?" No, just nope. I love their dynamic as friends. I love the way Alya and Marinette bounce off each other. That conversation was great. She brings it up how Marinette is going crazy with Adrian, and then she's like, "Can I be frank?" No, because Marinette just doesn't want to hear it. Which is why Alya decides to help her a bit by leaving her alone with him later, which leads you into an interesting sequence of scenes, because they interview two different people, and I'm trying not to talk about the messed up episode order because I've already done a video on that. And, in this video, I'm meant to be judging this episode for what it is without talking about the messed up order. But yes, one of the two people that they interview is Sublime's mother, who has not been akumatized yet, who I do know gets akumatized in a different episode. But the other interesting thing I noticed is before that, they interviewed Miss Bustier. And Alya says, "You were one of the first people akumatized by this new butterfly miraculous holder." Which made me think, okay, she's one of the first. When did that happen? Because that would have been nice to see. That means that Illustrhater is not the first. Climactic Queen, whose episode is supposedly episode 1, is not even the first. And I really don't like that Chrysalis's first Akuma did not happen on screen. It must have happened off screen between season 5 and 6 at some point. I don't like that. I would have loved if we got to see their first time fighting an Akuma from this new villain. But apparently Miss Bustier was one of the first, and we didn't get to see that happen. Why couldn't we have that? It would have been a great season opener if we got to see the beginning of this new villain, but we didn't get to see her first Akuma. Granted, yes, I know you may be thinking, well, we never did see... Well, the first episode of season 1 was not Hawkmoth's first Akuma. I was going to say, but we did see his first Akuma in Origins. Maybe they'll do something like that later, and they'll go back and slot in and show us like a flashback to her first time using the Butterfly Miraculous. That could be cool. It just sucks that this episode, in some ways, yeah, it does feel like a beginning, a bit of a beginning, mainly just because of the recap at the start made it feel like that. But in other ways, this does not feel much like a season opener, so there's that. And maybe it doesn't feel like one because Thomas Astruc wants us to watch things in random orders, so he doesn't want to give us an episode that feels like a season opener. Okay. That being said, this episode wasn't bad. It had some nice moments. I did like the whole dynamic between the characters, like between the group of friends, Marinette, Adrian, Nino, and Alya. The whole dynamic between those four. Oh, like I did like the bit where they just started making faces at each other, which I might not have laughed out loud at it, but it's one of those nice little moments that's like, it's just kids being kids, you know, they're just having fun being friends, and that's a nice moment. So that was nice. I do like the show does still feel like itself. It still has that style of humor. The clumsiness wasn't too over the top, and I did laugh. I did mention already, I laughed at the "Can I be frank" bit. Oh yeah, there was one other moment that I laughed out loud actually, and it was with Maya and her dad. At first when she was going around showing people the drawings, I was like, where are this kid's parents? Then it is revealed the waiter is her dad, which I kind of feel bad for that whole situation where Adrian did pay and the wind blew the money away, which I guess maybe he was supposed to slip it under something so it holds it down, but the waiter thought that he didn't pay. But there was an interesting line that I wrote down. The other guy, maybe the manager, said to him, "Customers are like children. We need to take care of them and watch them." And that's when I laughed because of the irony. Because in that same moment, he was not watching his kid who ran off upset because he turned her away. Because, no one was paying attention to her, and then her dad didn't care. Oh, the other thing with Maya that I really liked is after she was deakumatized, the way Ladybug talked to her, it was really nice. The way she was like validating her feelings and saying, yeah, we all get upset and we do silly things when our emotions are big. That was just a nice little line. Before I end things off, there's one more moment that I need to bring attention to. And it is towards the end of the episode, not quite the end, because I think the scene at the movies where she talks to Adrian comes after it. But there's this one moment at the end with Alya where she gets Tiki to give Alya a Kwagatama. And she says that if something were to happen and she has to give up being guardian, that she is choosing Alya to be the next guardian. Now, this is something a lot of fans were talking about when we got this scene. Like, this scene was getting tossed around all over social media, even before people were watching the full episode. People saw that screenshot and they were like, okay, Alya's the next guardian. And I remember a lot of people were not happy about it, saying that Alya shouldn't be the next guardian, mainly because some people were saying if anyone's the next guardian, it should be Adrian, because the show is Ladybug and Cat Noir. Other people were saying, well, Cat Noir, it's true, he is not the right person to be a guardian. But also, is Alya the right person to be a guardian? Maybe she might have what it takes. A lot of people are throwing other names around for the perfect guardian, like Luca or Alex, both of which are great choices, of course. I think Luca would make a great guardian. But the problem is, I don't think a Guardian should be allowed to know the identities of both Ladybug and Cat Noir. I say that, but Master Fu was the Guardian and he did know both. However, Marinette was the Guardian and she didn't know both. Getting to the point though, this is definitely an important advancement for the show, is to straight up say that she wants Alya to be the next Guardian if something happens. It also had people talking and saying, well, does that mean Marinette is going to someday lose a bunch of her memory if she has to give up being Guardian? I personally think that as the Guardian, she should have the choice to change that rule and to be able to give up being Guardian without erasing her memory if she thinks it's safe to do so. Because I can't imagine how the show can go on with her losing a lot of her memory. But it's interesting that she's bringing that up. She does say it's just a precaution and, it's not like she's planning to do it anytime soon. But I just thought it's really important to bring up that scene because she is basically saying if she's going to give up being Guardian, it's going to be Alya. Unless something makes her change her mind later, but that's an important scene. But I've rambled on for long enough, so all in all, I'm pretty happy with this episode. I'm really excited to see what else they do with season 6. And it's been pretty interesting so far. This episode, it worked just fine. Like some people are going as far as to say season 6 is the show going downhill, and I definitely disagree with that. It still feels like the show. A lot has changed, yes, but I'm pretty happy with it. This episode was great. So, with that being said, I will probably be I'll probably be reviewing Sublimation next, because I believe that's the next one in release order. So, I will see you next time for more Miraculous and other things as well. See you next time, guys.